Hello everyone, my name is Kaday, and today we're going to learn how to solve a Rubik's Cube. Now, we're going to solve this using a specific algorithm that SWE is sharing with all of our young learners. But to start off, I'm going to go over some of the very few basics to understand the algorithm moving forward. Now, it might get a little confusing, but most of the time when you're facing your cube, that's the orientation we're going to go off of. Now, the cube has 6 faces and all of them has different colors. But to start off in the algorithm, we have right hand side, which is your right hand. We have the left hand side. We have the face, which is the face facing you. We have the back, which is the one completely opposite of the face on the back. We have up, which is the face facing up, and we have down, which is the face facing down. Now with these algorithms moving forward, and especially if you have our packet, R stands for right, L stands for left, U stands for up, D stands for down, F stands for face, B stands for back. Now, you'll see that we have R prime and just U, U prime, and then R prime, and so on and so forth. So when I say prime, it means that there's a little apostrophe afterwards. Now, if you're moving if you're moving one of the sides or faces and it's clockwise, which means just like a hands on the clock rotate, then it's just a R or L, a U, a D, an F, or a B. Now, if you're moving it so that it's counterclockwise, so if you're pretending it was a clock and it's going backwards, then that's where you see the prime, which is the little apostrophe that you'll see. So we're going to do some examples. When you're facing your cube, from your viewpoint, it might be a little bit different. Now, when I see a U, that just means I rotate the upper face in a clockwise formation. That's a U. Now, when I see a U prime or U apostrophe, that means I'm moving the upper face, but in the counterclockwise, so the other way. So this is when you see a U prime or a U apostrophe. Now, you're going to understand the same for the rest of it. If I see an R for right, I'm going to move the right side in a clockwise formation. Now, if I see an R prime or R apostrophe, I'm going to move the right side in a counterclockwise. It's going to do the same on the left hand. If I see an L, I'm going to move the left hand side in a clockwise formation. But when I see an L prime or L apostrophe, I'm going to move the left-hand side in a counterclockwise orientation, so which means backwards again. You're going to do the same with face, and so F just means clockwise, F prime means counterclockwise, or F apostrophe. Same, B is for back, and then D for the bottom. So again, D, if it says just D, then I'm going to move it clockwise. If it says D apostrophe or D prime, then I'm going to move it counterclockwise, backward. And then B, back, you'll practice that too. So, moving it clockwise, and if you see a B prime, but in our algorithm you won't, that's just would be the opposite. Now those are the basics, and it's going to be very helpful before you get started to where you just practice doing those so that you get a handle of things, and that way when you see a U, you automatically know, oh, it's the upper face clockwise. If I see a D prime, oh, it's the down facing face counterclockwise, so on and so forth. Now we'll begin using our algorithm to solve our Rubik's Cube. Now, to start off with the algorithm we're using today, the first step is to create a daisy. Now, what you're going to do, if you've ever seen a daisy, it normally has a yellow center and white petals. Okay. Now, another basic form that we should get into real quick is that these are the corner pieces. Obviously, they're the pieces that are in the corner. These are the center pieces, and those centers almost never move. They're stationary, and you'll see. And then these are the edge pieces. So the edge pieces are the pieces that are in the middle of the corner pieces. Now, this is going to be very important moving forward. So to create our daisy, we're going to have to find our yellow center and make sure its face is up. But before we solve this Rubik's Cube, I'm going to jumble it, mix it all up so that I can show you what we're talking about. Now, I have a jumbled up Rubik's Cube right here, and now we're going to start solving this. So, first step, like I said, is we're going to create a daisy, a yellow center with white petals. So for us, on your cube, yours is probably going to look different depending on the variation of how your cubes are jumbled. But for mine, here's my yellow piece. So that's going to be the center. So I'm going to make sure this yellow center is facing up. And now what I'm going to do is locate all of my white edges or my white edge pieces, which are going to be my petals. So for me right now, I have one here, and I have some here, some here, some here. So look at yours and locate it accordingly. Now the goal is to get these white these white edge pieces on the top layer. So we have the top layer, the middle layer, the bottom layer. So first, what you're going to do is every one of the edge pieces has a color associated with it. So for me, this white one over here is attached to the orange, and then this white one over here is attached to the blue, and then my white one over here is attached to red, and then my white one over here is attached to green. Now, it's important because the first thing we're going to do is when we bring these pieces up is we are going to have them at the side that matches the center pieces that corresponds with that color. And right now they all don't have to be facing up, so your main goal is to get these pieces, white edge pieces, moved to the top layer and associated with the side that matches this, with the center color that matches their corresponding or shared color. Now, for example, for me, I'm going to start with this blue piece, this blue-white piece. So this white piece, to make my petal, my daisy, my yellow stays up. My blue piece, I'm going to move it, and right now there's no legitimate algorithm for this. Move it around as you see fit to match over there. So as you see, my yellow daisy center is still up. I brought my white edge pieces up, and we'll fix this later, but right now it's to share with the blue, and I have it on this side, which just corresponds with the blue center. Now I'm going to bring all of my white edge pieces up first, and then we're going to go ahead and solve it. Now when you're doing this, it is important that you make sure that, be careful so that you don't bump out the white edges that are already in place. So normally when you do that, you can use the U prime or U counterclockwise to move a piece out the way before you bring it forward. What I mean by this is that I have, for mine example, I have this white edge here, and I have this orange edge right bottom of it, but I don't want to move this out of the way. I don't want to accidentally, this is already placed properly. So what I'm going to do is go U prime, or U a couple times, or U, depending, and then now that's moved out the way, and then I'm going to bring the face up, and then I'm going to move it back. So all I've done was, now I have my white orange piece up without disturbing the established ones I already have. Okay, so now my orange piece, like I said, I'm going to make sure that it's on the right side. Perfect. So right now you're probably thinking, hey, okay, this doesn't look like a daisy. Yes, I'm getting there. So the first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure that my all of my white edge pieces were first placed in the proper placement. So this one is with red and it matches with the red center. This one is with the green and it matches with the green, orange, and blue, so on and so forth. Now that I have them there, I'm going to try to bring them up so that they're facing up to make my daisy. So for me, on my cube right now, my red one's complete, so I don't have to worry about that. So I'm going to move over to the next one. So I'm going to try to bring this white edge face to orientate it up, so just like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an algorithm to do it without messing up the white piece. So what I'm going to do is use the algorithm R prime, which is R counterclockwise, U, which is just U clockwise, and F prime, which is the face backwards counterclockwise. So what means R, remember? So R prime counterclockwise, U, F prime. Ta-da! See? Now it's up. And then because for me I had already established my colors, I'm going to add another algorithm. When you do that, then I do a U prime. That way I brought my red piece right back to where it was, and I've solved my green, and it's also back where it is. Now I'm going to do this for the remaining two, for my orange petal, white petal, and my blue white petal. So remember, the algorithm is R prime, U, F prime. And if you had already established the colors, you can just add a U, and then that way you're matching these. Now for my final one. Whenever you're doing this, the color you're planning on moving, make sure it's on the right hand side. So this edge, if it's not facing up, that's the one you want to face up, make sure you move your cube to where the yellow center is still facing up, and this white edge is facing your left hand, your right hand, which is what you're going to use. So let's do this final one so we can create our pretty daisy. So again, that's R prime, U, F prime. Ta-da! And for me, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go U prime, just because I want to make sure these are back to where I started. And if you wanted to clean it up a bit, you can do that. Everyone's daisy is going to look a bit better, but here is the daisy. And you'll know that the daisy has been formed correctly, again, if these color edge line up with the center. So I got my blue. And now we're going to move on to the next step. Now, this second step is really easy. We've created our daisy, and now we're going to create a white cross. Now, if you'll notice that the yellow centerpiece is always directly opposite from the white centerpiece. So to go from our first step of making a daisy to making a cross, what we're going to do is we're going to use a simple algorithm. We're going to use F 2 times. So what I mean by that is the face. You'll face it, you'll go F, F. And then you'll change it, you'll go F, F, on all of the sides, all F, 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 F. And that way, now when you turn it up, ta-da, you have your white cross. And that should be the second step on solving this Rubik's Cube. The next thing we're going to do is now finish creating a white face. So to do that, since we already have the cross, we just need to get the white corner pieces into place. And we're going to show you how to do that with some of the algorithms we have. Now, I have located my corner pieces and they are all down here. But if you, for example, on mine, I have a white corner piece up here. And to get a corner with a white tile from the top layer to the bottom layer, you simply have to follow the algorithm R prime, D prime, R. R prime, D prime, R, which is R back counterclockwise, D counterclockwise, and then R clockwise. What I mean by this is that the goal is to move all of your white corner pieces to the bottom layer. So most of mine are already in the bottom layer. And this top one here, I'm going to show you how to move it to the bottom layer following the algorithm I just showed you. So remember, R prime, D prime, R. And then sometimes you may have to do it a couple of times because when you do that, maybe you've moved some other pieces in there. So I'll do it again. R prime, D prime, R. R prime, D prime, R. Okay, so to solve this, let's move on to the next algorithm. Now, the trick here is, let's start off with this piece right here. I'm going to start off with this corner piece. This white corner piece shares a tile with the blue and red. So what I'm going to do before moving this white corner piece to the proper corner, to the top layer, is I'm going to rotate it to make sure that it is between these two colors. So this one is between blue and red. So what I'm going to do is move it to the where it's between those two colors, center colors. So the corner blue and red, so I make sure it's between blue and red. Now, to bring it up, I know that for mine, this is what I'm going to do. Now, when you're doing this, just make sure that the white center piece is now the orientation facing up, but you can move this as necessary. So my blue and red is still here. So if the white tile is facing the left-hand side, you're going to use the algorithm D, L, D prime, L prime. Now, if it's on the right-hand side, you're going to use D prime, R prime, D, R. And you can follow this along in your pamphlet. So for our white corner piece that's shared with the blue and red piece, again, make sure it's centered in the proper spot. When it's facing me, because I'm always doing it from your own view, for me it's facing me, it's on my left-hand side. So I'm going to use the D, L, D prime, L prime algorithm to move this white corner piece that's shared between my red and blue up to the top proper corner piece. So remember, it depends on which color you're working with and if it's on your left or right hand side. So mine's on my left hand side, so let's do this. So D, L, D prime, L prime. And now I've moved it to the corner piece on the top. And I know it's correct because this blue side matches with the center. This blue matches with the center, and this red matches with the center. So make sure you keep track of your colors. Now let's do it some more. All right, I've located an orange, another white corner piece, and it's this one. However, this one's shared with orange and blue. So I'm going to move it so that it's located between the orange and blue center pieces. Now, for this one, when it's facing me and it's properly located, the white corner piece is on my right-hand side. So this time we're going to use the other algorithm because it's on the right-hand side. This right here on the right, the white corner piece is facing me. It's on the right-hand side. So I'm going to use D prime, R prime, D, L. So D prime, R prime, D, L. And again, I've successfully moved that white corner piece to the proper area. And I know this because the orange corner here matches with the orange center and the blue over here matches with the blue. Now, let's do this. I have two more to go. Now, when you're solving this, you might think, okay, I have a corner piece that's on the bottom layer, but it's facing down. So how do I make sure that this white corner piece that's facing down isn't facing down anymore, and it's at the bottom layer. So what you're going to do is hold your Rubik's Cube on the right face. So this right corner piece, I moved it to the right. If it was on the left over here, that's okay. You can just orient it. So what I'm still going to do is move it between the two colors. Even though it's facing down, it's sharing a green and red. So the first thing, red and green, and I make sure it's between those two. And now it's facing down, so the algorithm I'm going to use to bring it backward is F, D prime, F prime, D, D. So that's face clockwise, down counterclockwise, face counterclockwise, and then down 2 times. So again, locate the corner pieces that are facing down and make sure this one's green and red and it's on here, and keep it on your right. And let's use this algorithm. So F, D prime, F prime, D, D. And now you see, I've successfully moved that down-facing white corner piece. Now it's not facing down anymore, and it's still on the bottom layer. And this one's even better because it's now between the two colors I'm going to move it to. Now when I'm facing this one, for me, it's on my right-hand side. So I'm going to use that algorithm I told you again. Remember, if it's on the left-hand side, you're going to use a different algorithm, and if it's on the right-hand side, you're going to use that algorithm. So for us, it's on the right-hand side, so we're going to use the D prime, R prime, D, R, and we're almost complete. Now I'm going to do my last corner. You should be, practice makes perfect, so take your time and be patient. Again, my last piece, orange and green center, I moved it. This one's also facing down, so I'm going to use that nifty algorithm we showed you to get these down facing up. So F, D prime, F prime, D, D. Okay, so over here for me, it's on my right hand side, so I'm going to use my algorithm. And that is the third step completed. We've created the white face. Now, you'll know that this has been created successfully before moving forward because you'll see this T on all of the sides with the matching color. So the centerpiece matches with the layer here, the centerpiece matches with the colors here, so on and so forth. So you made that nice T. All right, now let's move on to step 4. So, for the next step, we're going to change our orientation again. So we've solved the white face and we made sure that the colors, the T, are proper. So now we're going to solve the middle layer. So when you do that, you're going to change your orientation again. So now, once again, the yellow center is facing up, and that's your new orientation. And the solid white face is facing down. So as you can see, we now have the bottom layer complete. All the colors match. Now we're going to solve the middle layer. Now, to solve the middle layer, look for the top edge pieces. So for me, I'm going to try to solve this top edge piece, green, red. So the face I'm going to orientate it so that this is facing the center I want. So now, this green piece that I want to solve first is, I've made sure that it's now facing the center I want. So what you're going to do with this next orientation when we use it, this next algorithm when we use it, it's going to take this, the piece that's right here, and it's either going to move it right or left. So for me, this green piece, it's shared with the red. And now the red, for me, if I'm facing it, the red is on my left-hand side. So this green piece, I'm trying to get the face to be rotated so it's here. So the next algorithm we'll use, it's going to take this piece and move it here for me, for the left, because the red will match over here. Now, if it's the algorithm you're going to use when you're moving it from the top center to the middle left-hand side is going to be different than the one you'll use for the right-hand side. So for the left-hand side, we're going to use the algorithm U, R, U prime, R prime, U prime, F prime, U, F. Now, this is why at the beginning I said it's very good to get used to figuring out the orientation and how to move things. So, I'm so sorry. What I meant to say is, for this one, the algorithm you're going to use to have the green face move to the left-hand side is going to be U prime, L prime, U, L, U, F, U prime, F prime. And if you wanted to get it to the right-hand side, it's U, R, U prime, R prime, U prime, F prime, U, F. Now, it'll get better with practice. So I'm going to use my U prime, L prime, U, L, U, F, U prime, F to get this piece to the left-hand side because that's where I want it. And again, the reason I want it there is because it shares the color with the red. And the green, for my green, the red is right now on my left-hand side. So let's do this. U prime, L prime, U, L, U, F, U, F prime. There you go. I've moved it successfully. And if you did it successfully, the bottom colors should not have changed. It should still remain the same. You should not be undoing any of your previous work. Now let's do it again. You can rotate the top layer however you want, U or U prime, and to move whichever piece you want to solve next. So for me, I've moved it. Now I'm trying to solve this blue piece. So my blue piece is connected to my red here. And for me, this time, the red is on my right-hand side. So my goal is to get this blue piece moved over to the right side. So I'm going to use the opposite algorithm, which is U, R, U prime, R prime, U prime, F, U, F. All right, let's do this. All right, and as you can see, I've successfully moved my piece. Now, we'll keep doing this until we've got the middle layer completed. It might take a couple times, and sometimes you might have to knock certain things over, or sometimes you might just have to do it as often as it takes just to get the colors fixed. Ta-da! And we're now one step closer to solving our algorithm. So now, as you can see, we have the middle and the bottom layers complete. And we've done all of that without disturbing the process we made earlier when we solved the white face. Now, let's solve this top layer and then we're done. Well, there's a few more steps between that, but we're getting closer. Now, this next step is my favorite. So again, the white face should still be down and the yellow center should still be facing up as your orientation. So when you're looking at this, sometimes you might not have any of the yellow faces up here. Sometimes you may have the yellow faces to where all the center are yellow, but nothing else is, which is when you're facing it, makes it look like someone's laying down, or sometimes it might look like mine, where you have this little L shape, or we like to say pretend like someone's sitting down. That's how you remember it. And you're going to use the algorithm fur goes earth. So it's F, U, R, and then U prime, R prime, F prime. So I like to remember it as a dog barking. So fur, the dog, going earth. Sorry, it's barking. So F, U, R, U prime, R prime, F prime. Now, for me, whenever you're looking at it, either, like I said, it's just a center, or it's horizontal with just a yellow, or if it's this L, make sure it looks like the person's sitting down facing the left-hand side. So what I'm going to do now is we're actually going to use this algorithm to create a yellow cross. The F-U-R, U prime, R prime, F prime is going to help us make a yellow cross. So for me, let's see. Sometimes you might have to do this multiple times just to get the yellow cross. So fur goes earth. F, U, R. F, U, R, U prime, R prime, F. Now we've solved it. So now that we've solved this, let's move on to the next step and finish solving the yellow face with the algorithm to complete the corners. So for this next step, to complete the corners, regardless of the next three variations of what it looks like, make sure the yellow center is still facing up. So what we're going to use is the algorithm R, U, R prime, U, R, U, U, R prime. So you'll have to use this as much as possible until it's all solved. And when you're using it, this is what you need to keep in mind. So if it's a yellow cross right now, you'll use the algorithm with the yellow, at least one of the yellow pieces facing your left-hand side. Now, if it was one that looked like a little fish, if you look in your diagram, you'll see what I mean, and I might show you when I move this around. Then pretend the fish is eating out of your left hand, the nose of the fish, and then you'll use the algorithm. That's how you would keep track of your orientation. And if you had everything but two corner pieces solved, then you would just make sure that at least one of the yellow pieces is facing you and it's on the left hand. So two corner pieces. Think of it as, I see two, my left thumb's on you. And if it's the fish, if there's none, no corner pieces, then none left. Think of it as none left. So for me right now, there's no corner pieces, so it's none left. That's how I remember it. And if it was a fish, feed the fish. Feed the fish from your left hand. You'll see. So for me right now, I'm remembering it's none left because I don't have any yellow corner pieces. None left. So I'm going to make sure at least one of my corner pieces is facing my left-hand side, and I'm going to now use the algorithm. R, U, R prime, U, R, U, U, R. Okay, let's do this. R, U, R prime, U, R, U, U, R prime. And now, this is what I meant. Now I've done that and I've solved one, and I'll keep going until it's all solved. But now this one looks like a fish, so I'm going to orient it to where the nose of the fish is feeding from my left-hand side. So remember, none left, and then feed the fish. And it will change, like I said. Everyone's cube is going to look slightly different, but you'll do it again. R, U, R prime, U, R, U, U, R. And for me, I got lucky too. I just needed to use it twice, and I've solved my yellow face. And again, you've done this correctly if you've made sure that you haven't undone any of the hard work we've already done. And now let's move on to the next step. Now, this next step gets a little bit tricky sometimes. I remember when I first tried to solve the Rubik's Cube, it took me almost 2 hours, and that was following the directions. Now, the directions for the algorithm, because I hadn't memorized it yet. Now, what I now know was a trick that I should have kept in mind is that when you're moving these pieces, for me, what I like to do is find two of the corner pieces that you'd move. So for example, for me at least, this corner piece and this corner piece right here, this is what I'm going to use as my orientation. This one, the green over here, and move it as you see. So adjust your corners so that on the same page, so that they match one of the images that you see on the pamphlet for this step. And for me, what I like to do is, because it's hard to remember all the pamphlets, is that I orient it, and then I get to the point where, let's see if I can find a good one. Again, this is you should just be moving the top piece right now. As I was saying, so looking at the pamphlet for the algorithm, it might be a little bit easier to get to get your Rubik's Cube so that it matches one of the images that you see over there. So when you're working on it, after a while, obviously, when you've got more practice and you're feeling more confident, what I like to do is that when I'm solving it, I rotate it, and then I look for the two corner pieces that I'm facing. And then for mine specifically, this blue and green, they both share a red, and then I'm facing the red here. So for me, that's the face I'm going to face. That's the side I'm going to have facing me while I work on my algorithm. And again, this can be any other colorations, but for me, like I said, the green and the blue piece both share the red piece, which is the one I'm facing. And then the blue is over here, and then the green is over here. So I'm going to solve it so that it rotates. But like I said, if you haven't memorized that yet, simply use the image in the pamphlet and get your Rubik's Cube to match one of those images. But after practice and after a while, you'll start figuring out what you're looking for. So the algorithm we're now going to use is going to be R prime, F, R prime, B, B, R, F prime, R prime, B, B, R, R, U prime. All right, so I found mine, and for you, whichever image you found that matches that, you're going to use it. Again, R prime, F, R prime, B, B, R, F prime, R prime, B, B, R, R, U. And as you can see now, I have successfully done this, and I've solved at least one other colored face. And now all of these are almost completed except for the center. And now for the final step. And we're going to work on the final step, but just a quick reminder, sometimes you may have to do this a little bit more to solve another color, but it takes practice and it depends on everyone's algorithm. But for me, I was lucky enough I've now done, and I'm going to finally move on to the final phase. Now, if you made it this far, you're almost complete. Just hold on in there a little longer. So what you're going to do is, how you're facing it, make sure the yellow side is facing up, the white side is facing down, and whichever color you solved, whether it was blue, orange, green, or red, whichever one's fully solved, unlike the others, make sure that one is the back orientation. That one's the back for you. So for me, my orange is the back for me, but from your view, that's what you're seeing. So for me, my orange is the back. Yellow up, white down, whichever part you solved on the back. Now for the final algorithm, and then you might have to do this a couple times before you're complete, but regardless if you have to do it once, twice, or 3 times, The final algorithm is F, F, U, L, R prime, F, F, L prime, R, U, F, F. So what this specific algorithm is going to do is it's actually going to take the upper center edge pieces. It's going to take the upper edge piece and it's going to actually rotate it clockwise. So this red piece is going to move here, and this is going to move here, and then this moves there, and there, and so on and so forth. So that's what it's doing. So this moves here, this moves here, this moves there. So that the algorithm F, F, U, L, R prime, F, F, L prime, R, U, F, F, that's what it's doing. It's going to move this around as a clock. Now let's do it so that we can finally solve it. F, F, U, L, R prime, F, F, L prime, R, U, F, F. And there you have it. You've finally solved your Rubik's Cube. And like I said, practice makes perfect. And for the next one, I'm going to now jumble this up real quick. And I'm going to show you how quickly you could solve it once you've learned everything. So, good job, everyone. All right, now let's put it all together. And with practice and practice, you can finally solve this a little bit quicker. And sometimes you might even be able to solve it without the algorithm in front of you, and you'll be able to memorize it just because of practice. Now, I'm going to quickly solve mine with all of those steps we just walked through and show you in real time how quickly, well, I'm not that quick, but I show you in real time how we can now solve any variation of how jumbled up your Rubik's Cube is just using the same algorithm. All right, let's go. And there you have it. With just some simple algorithms, some practice, dedication, and memorization, you will be able to solve a Rubik's Cube whenever and however you want. Thank you.